Hello, everyone. My name is Luisa Garcia. I'm a realtor here in London, Ontario, and today I will be showing you how or giving you a guide to renting and buying your first home here in London or in Ontario. So, a little bit about me. As I said, my name is Luisa Garcia. I'm bilingual. I speak English and Spanish, and I'm a licensed realtor with Keller Williams Lifestyles Realty. And my focus right now is on first time buyers as well as leases. I am a board member of RRAI since 2021. So I've been behind the scenes on a lot of the work that this not for profit does. The session goals today is the goal is that by the end of the session, you will understand how renting works in Ontario as well as your rights as a tenant. And then what steps you need to buy your first home here in Ontario, as well as the costs associated with that. So, you want to understand your housing options here in Ontario. So, there's basically two kinds. You are either renting and leasing, or you are buying. With renting and leasing, some of the pros would be that you're testing out a neighborhood, seeing if you like the neighborhood that you're in, and it's a little bit more short term. Whereas buying, you're obviously building equity, you have long term stability, and then you are just a side note responsible for maintenance of the home. Whereas when you're renting, it's a low upfront cost. So you don't pay as much. There's no, um, deposit other than first and last month. It's a little bit more flexible and there is no maintenance cost because somebody does all the maintenance for you. So when we talk about renting your first home, every rental has a standard Ontario lease agreement that you fill out, and it's standard across Ontario. Typically, when you sign a lease, it's for 12 months, and then after that, it's month to month, which means you're not tied in. But if you do want to leave that rental, you do have to give a 60-day notice. So when you're renting or even buying, you want to find a real estate agent that you want to work with, especially as a newcomer, because they will guide you and tell you all the legality of things, as well as help you find the property that best suits your needs. Places where you can find a home to rent can be realtor.ca, Facebook Marketplace, or Google search. In terms of marketplace and Google search, you do want to be careful, especially now. There's a lot of scams out there. So, again, another reason why you should work with a real estate agent. One thing I do want to emphasize on is that there's kind of two ways that you can rent. There's rental properties that are from management groups. So, for example, a lot of the high-rise buildings, apartment buildings, they there's a company that's renting it out. So it's not necessarily somebody that bought a home and is now renting it out as a landlord. You have an actual rental company that you apply to. So it's still the Ontario lease agreement, but you have a whole management group, a whole rental group that takes care of you compared to a landlord. The landlord, if you do move into a house, they might hire a property manager to take care of everything. But yeah, that's something to know. So, in terms of deposits, what's legal? So, first and last month's rent, pretty standard. You pay your first month. So, if, for example, every month you're paying $2,000 for an apartment, you have to give $4,000. So, that covers your first and your last month's rent. And that's once you're approved. Another deposit is the refundable key deposit. So, if you live in a building, for example, or even a home, sometimes they might charge you 25, $50 for your fob. That's what they call it. So if you were to lose it, you obviously lose that deposit. But for the most part, once you leave the home, they give you that money back. What is not allowed is a deposit for damage. If somebody asks you for that, that's a major red flag. A pet deposit or a security deposit. Oops, there's a typo there, not security, security. Those are not allowed in Ontario, so you got to be mindful of, who you're working with. Some of your rights as a tenant, you do have the right to have heat, water, electricity. Some places will include this in the rent, other places it will be in addition to. You have the right to safe living conditions, repairs and maintenance, privacy. So if somebody needs to come in to work on something in the apartment, they must give you notice. I believe it's 24 hours. Um, unless it's an emergency. If it's something like there's a huge leak or something like that, or God forbid, a fire or something, they can come in because it's an emergency. as well as protection from illegal eviction. So it is quite tough to get evicted. There has to be many notices. That's a little bit more in depth. If you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to me. And then in rent increases, so the landlord has to give you 90-day notice before they increase the rent. And they can only do so every 12 months, so every year. And it is typically by a small amount. That's considered rent control. So that's for units that were built before 2018. A lot of the new rises, they're not under rent control, so they can increase basically as much as they want. So you just got to be careful with that. Make sure you look at the guidelines in your contract. And then, yeah, they do have to follow Ontario rent guidelines as well. Some of the documents you will need when you're looking for a rental. Landlords do ask for ID, so driver's license or any ID that you might have issued by Ontario or the government, credit report, job letter, pay stubs, references. Now, I do want to emphasize here as well that a lot of newcomers, they might be on Ontario Works, or some people might even be on disability. And, stable income is stable income. So that is something that, don't feel discouraged. It's still money coming in. So even if you don't have a job, you can still show that, or bank statements and whatnot. If you are new again here, so bank statements do help. Sometimes you will be asked for a guarantor that might be able to, they put their name on the lease, and in case there is some sort of issue with payment, they are liable for that. So that's, if you have somebody that you trust or they trust you, and you can ask for help, as well as prepaid rent. So if they feel like it's risky, but you're willing to prepay some rent, then that may be accepted as well. So some red flags you want to be careful with now with a lot of scams going on. If you see let's say, you're working on your own, you're looking for a rental. If the price is too low, that might be too good to be true. If they're asking for a deposit before viewing, huge red flag. You got to be careful with that. Also, if they don't want to show you the listing in person, or you notice that the pictures are fake, those are things you want to watch out for. Ultimately, no matter what's important is to remain safe. So you do want to verify with the landlord that they're owning the home. Like, this is for private rental. Some landlords, people that own the home, they will post and they will be the ones showing you. So sometimes it's better to just work with a licensed realtor. As realtors, we have access to all the rentals, all the homes for sale. And then typically you don't have to deal directly with the landlord. And a lot of the landlords are very knowledgeable and they're aware of what they can and can't do. But, there's always some people that aren't sure. They're not as educated, as aware. So you just got to be careful with that. And then, of course, never send cash deposits. So we talk about renting, from renting to owning. There's just 5 steps here. So the first one, you want to build credit. A little bit more on that later on how to build credit. I'm sorry. And then after you build some credit over some time, you want to save for your down payment. Typically, at least minimum 5% for your down payment, up to 20%. Obviously, the more the better. But if you don't have 20, it's not a big deal. And then you want to work towards a pre-approval. So when you are looking for a pre-approval, you can talk to your mortgage broker, you can go to the bank, and find what the best rate that is being offered. Step 4, you want to hire a realtor, and then they're the ones that are going to help you with the home search and explain all your rights to you, explain contracts to you, and then help you with, it's the fun part where you get to shop around for your home. So the home buying process. So it's 10 steps. You first connect with an agent. So we connect so that you determine whether I am the agent for you or not. You can shop around for agents. Step number 2, the pre-approval. You want to speak with somebody that's trusted. Typically, if you do connect with an agent that you like, they will know somebody that they can connect you with, like a mortgage broker. And then you can get your pre-approved letter. Number 3 is your search. So this is where things get fun because we're looking around, looking at homes that you really like and how many beds you want, how many bathrooms, what area, what are you looking for? And then that's when we start doing the showing. So the homes that you're interested in, we make an appointment, we go and look at all these houses. And then, of course, step 5 is negotiation. So as a realtor, they are representing you, they have your best interest in mind. Within reason, of course. of what you're asking for the home. And then this is where you would negotiate with the listing agent. Listing agent is what they call the agent that works for the seller. And then step number six, you're in contract. So that's where, you decide on the home. We've negotiated, now we're in contract, and all the processes and all the timelines begin. Number seven, inspections. You want to schedule all the inspections and negotiate any repair requests and issues from inspection. Now, a lot of the times lenders require you to get an appraisal, get things inspected, make sure the home is good. Sometimes you can bypass the inspection. You don't necessarily, it's not like mandatory, but it's recommended. And then step eight is financing. So you want to get your appraisal and obtain insurance. And then step nine, final details, you get the okay to close from your lender, and then you do a final walkthrough of your house before closing. And then the very most exciting part, closing, you get your keys and then celebrate buying a new home. All right, this is the not so fun part, but we look at the cost of buying a home. So there's this table here, of course, that the costs are just an estimate. They vary. First off, the deposit. So it can be around 5 to 15,000. It depends on how much the home is worth. And then so the way it works is it's a deposit, and then when you close, that deposit's obviously deducted from the total. And then you pay that when you're submitting an offer to a home, and then it's within 24 hours of it being accepted. The other expense is inspection. So you pay that at the inspection, or then it's invoiced afterwards. The land transfer tax here in Ontario, it's roughly 1 to 2% at the time of closing, but there are like a rebate. So first-time homebuyers may qualify for up to $4,000 of that. Title insurance, you pay that at the time of closing. Your down payment, like I mentioned before, 5 to 20% or more if you have it. And again, at the time of closing, your appraisal fee, and you pay that prior to or after the appraisal is completed. And sometimes the lender does cover it, could be in the terms. Mortgage default insurance, up to 4% of your premium. So if your down payment's less than 20%, typically you would pay this, and it's paid at the time of closing. And then legal fees. So with your real estate lawyer, that's either 3 to 5 days prior to closing or on closing day. Don't let all these numbers scare you though. A good realtor walks you through everything and makes sure that you're, you know, in the loop and you're on the timeline that it has to be. So don't be overwhelmed by this chart here. Okay, now to talk about some like incentives or, by the government. So we have our first home savings account. This is a savings account that you save tax free, and it is for your first home. Once you have your money in there, it is for your first home. So some benefits is that you can save up to $40,000. It does the contributions that you put in this account reduce your taxes when you're doing your taxes at the end of the year. And then when you take that money out, it is tax free, again, to buy a home. So this is great for newcomers because once you get here and you decide, okay, I want to buy a house X number of years down the line, you start putting money in this account, and then it has a lot of benefits. The next one's a home buyer's plan. It's the RRSP account. So you can withdraw, excuse me, up to $60,000 from this. Obviously, if you're in a couple, it's $120,000, tax-free withdrawal as well, and then you repay it over the 15 years. The first-time home buyer incentive, this one's a government shared equity program. So between 5 and 10% towards your purchase price, and then it will lower your mortgage payments. And then it's repaid when you sell. I have to look into that specifically, but that's how that is. And then the newcomer mortgage programs. So there are a lot of programs for newcomers, and a lot of banks offer it, like RBC, TD, Scotiabank, BMO, and CIBC. So that one will have like the benefits that you don't have to have a super like if you have a limited Canadian credit, then this you qualify for this. You can use it for an income history, and then sometimes because there's a higher risk, you might have to put a higher down payment as well. Now, how do you build credit in Canada? So one of the easiest ways is you get a good credit card. You do have to pay the bills on time. So obviously, don't go spending all your money and then you can't pay on time and then you get interest. That's what lowers your credit. So you want to make sure you pay on time, you keep your balance low, and then you don't apply to too many loans or credit cards. Typically, between 3 and 6 months, you start building your credit score, and then up to 2 years, you can be mortgage ready as well. Here are some helpful websites for the accounts and all the information that you would need to know. So the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, the Tenant Board, the incentive for first-time buyers, as well as the land transfer tax calculator. I do have as well, I will share my website. There's a mortgage calculator. So you can put in, let's say, the amount that you're hoping to pay for your house. And then it kind of shows you all the like the interest rate and stuff like that and what you can expect. It's just a calculator though, it's not exact numbers. And that pretty much sums up my presentation. Thank you so much for watching. Again, all my information's on here, my phone number, my email, Instagram, and my website. So feel free to reach out with any questions you have. I'm happy to help. And